Have you not heard? Has it not been told? There is a story of old.
Archbishop Dominiquae Bierman has traveled the world for over 3 decades proclaiming the gospel from Zion to the nations with miracles following. She exposes the false doctrines of replacement theology and preaches restoration to the Jewish Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach.
That a lion has defeated a dragon. A lion has defeated a dragon. A lion has defeated a dragon. The Lion of Judah has defeated the dragon.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. A shofar and a half for another warrior, Yael, the warrior, hallelujah, the wife of Heber from the Kenite clan of the Midianites, from Jethro's family. Today we're going to get to meet a woman that is so wise that only one woman managed to actually win the entire war of the Israelites against the Canaanites that were oppressing them for 20 years. And though everybody had their part in winning the war, the major part was Deborah the prophetess that prophesied, strategized, gave the command to the army commander, and went to the war together with him. And the stars fought all the way from above for them to win a war against an oppressor that had 900 chariots that didn't even let them forge any arms or weapons, so they wore no spears. There were even 40,000 people of Israel didn't have even spears to their name. And so they definitely were in a big disadvantage. And we're going to check what happens in this war, how actually Yahveh uses 2 women to win the war. Deborah is the first one that we talked about in a previous episode, and today we're going to see her prophecy coming to pass with another woman. Now, the first thing we want to know is that this other woman wasn't even an Israelite. She was a Gentile. And God used in this case, well, we would say an Israelite and a Gentile to bring together the victory for Israel. So Israel was very, very oppressed. Let's take a look. In Judges 5, after the victory, Deborah sings a song, and the song is very revealing. And we also get to know that Deborah is a singer on top of it. She's a praiser. So Judges 5, 8-9 says this. New gods were chosen. The people were in idolatry at the time. Then a war was in the gates. Not a shield or a spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel. The volunteers among the people bless Yahveh. You can see here the prophetess, the judge, the powerful woman of authority, but you can also see the mother. Because, you know, normally you wouldn't have a man saying, my heart goes out. She just says, my heart goes out. You can see she had compassion. She had mercy over the sons of Israel because they were at such great disadvantage, and she was standing in the gap for the sons of Israel to win the war. Hallelujah. And she was the one calling the shots as well. So anyways, this looked absolutely impossible. It looked like this was not going to happen. They will not be able to succeed against the oppressors, the king of Canaan, Yavin, the king of Canaan, Sisera, his chief of staff, 900 chariots, no spears in Israel, 20 years under oppression, and no. This was a war to lose. But not with Deborah, and certainly not with the other heroine of this book, Yael, as well. So let's keep on reading. It says this. In Judges 4:8, she comes to Barak and she says, Barak, go into the battle. Barak says, okay, I will go. If you go with me, then I will go. And so she said, okay, fine. I will go with you. But this is what she says, Judges 4:9. She said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the honor shall not be yours on the journey that you're about to take. For Yahveh will sell Sisera Yahveh will sell Sisera into the hands of a woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. So Deborah prophesies that Sisera, who is the head of the army of the Canaanites. Now, understand this one. When you kill the shepherd, or when you scatter the shepherd, all the sheep are scattered. So even when people would go into battle, if you go into battle, let's say, and you kill every soldier, but yet the head remains alive, that's a big, big mistake. And so until Sisera, the head of the army of Canaan, would be killed, the battle could not be really won, because then the Canaanites could regroup again under the leadership of Sisera, and more battles and more battles. So there had to be a situation where somebody courageous enough will take on the head. And for this purpose, Yahveh chose a woman. And that's what Deborah actually went and prophesied. Now, that woman was from the clan of Yethro. Who is Yethro? Yethro is the same one as Chovav. He is the father-in-law of Moses. He is the father of Tzipporah and the grandfather of the children of Moses, right? And so Yethro comes to the desert, and Moses asked him to go with him, but Yethro didn't want to go. But somehow we see that the clan from his family actually is found eventually in the Holy Land, in the Promised Land, but it's the particular side of the family that separated themselves from the entire clan of Yethro, and this clan is called the Kenites, and they are Midianites. And Yael, therefore, is the wife of Heber the Kenite. Now let's take a look at who is Yethro a little bit. Let's go to Numbers 10:29 to 32, and we will see the background of Yael. Then Moses said to Chovav, the son of Reuel the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, we are setting out to the place of which Yahveh said, I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will do you good, for Yahveh has promised good concerning Israel. But he said to him, I will not come, but rather will go to my own land and relatives. Then he said, please do not leave us, inasmuch as you know where we should camp in the wilderness, and you will be as eyes for us. These Midianites were trackers in the desert, just like the Bedouins are today in Israel, and they can be eyes in the desert to Moses. So it will be, if you go with us, that whatever good Yahveh does for us, we will do for you. By the way, that's Genesis 12:3 right there. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. When Elohim does good to Israel, those that have helped Israel get blessed. But when people, do evil to Israel, then they get cursed. And in this case, then, Moses was inviting Yethro, Chovav, to put the key of Abraham in the open position of the blessing for his entire clan. But Yethro said, no. I want to go back to my family, kind of like Orpah did in the book of Ruth. She went back to her family. But there's something cryptic in the scriptures. It looks like at the end, actually, Yethro accepted the invitation and went with them because it doesn't say that he turned around and he left. So he may have said, no, like you bargained with somebody. But eventually when Moses said, like a good negotiator, hey, if you come with us, you do good to us, then Yahveh will do good to you. Being a good businessman, he said, I'm going to go with this Moses, and I'm going to go with these people of Israel. So anyways, we find therefore the family of Yethro in the land of Israel in the Galilee. And in Judges 4 verse 11 it says, now Heber the Kenite had separated himself from the Kenites, from the sons of Chovav, the father-in-law of Moses, and had pitched his tent as far away as the oak in Zaananim, which is near Kadesh. So he went as far away as the mountains of the Galilee. We do not know where Chovav would have been. Maybe he went more towards the Negev, or he stayed more at the entrance at the gate of Israel. But in this case, this part of the family came all the way to the Galilee. And so now we see in Judges 4:16 that Barak begins to win the war with all of the soldiers. It said, Judges 4:16, it says, but Barak pursued the chariots, 900 of them, and the army as far as Haroshet Goim, right below the valley here. And all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not even one was left. But Sisera, the Canaanite army commander, had escaped. He is the only one that had escaped. In other words, he left his soldiers. You know, this is different. You know that Israeli army commanders, normally they go before the soldiers and they are the first ones to show the way. But often in other armies, the commanders go in the back in order to protect them. In this case, we see Sisera forsook his soldiers. He left them because he saw that they were going to be slaughtered. So he was pretty much a coward, this army commander. And he left his soldiers and now begins to run for his life because he's so scared that he will be killed. Understand that Sisera had Israel under the gun for 20 years. And now he's running away for his life. And then in Judges 4:15 and 17 it says, Yahveh routed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak, and Sisera alighted from his chariot and fled away on foot. Now Sisera fled away on foot to the tent of Yael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. For there was shalom, there was peace between Yavin, the king of Hatzor, who is the king of Canaan at the time, and the house of Heber the Kenite. In other words, Heber the Kenite and his clan, they were living in tents and they were in peace with everybody. They were not quarreling, they were kind of neutral. They did not quarrel with anybody, so they were in peace with the Canaanites, as long as, of course, they complied with them. So they were politically correct at the time. And so now when Sisera begins to run, and he decides to run to the tent of Yael, what was he thinking? He was thinking, I'm going to go to a place that's friendly to me. I'm going to go to a place that they've been politically correct all the time, and they played the game with me and Yavin, the king of Canaan, against Israel. And so I'm going to be safe there. That was his thinking. So he runs to the tent of Yael. Can you imagine what it looked like? He had been running and escaping, may have been bloody, maybe was muddy, he was sweaty, he was exhausted, he was hungry, he was thirsty, he was scared, he had lost buku amount of soldiers, nearly all of them were routed and killed by Israel at the time. So he arrives now to a safe place, to Yael, the tent where a woman could take care of him, where a woman could give him something to drink, where a woman could allow him to rest and keep watch over him. Oh, so he thought, except this woman was going to be used by God, was going to be used by Yahveh to win the war against the Canaanites. Judges 4:18 and 19 says, Yael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, turn aside, my master. Turn aside to me. Do not be afraid. And he turned aside to her into the tent, and she covered him with a rug. He said to her, please, give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a bottle of milk and gave him a drink. Then she covered him. Boy, 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 this woman was a wise one. She knew this was the prized possession. And what does she do? She just puts him at peace. In other words, she uses at that point her motherly demeanor and says, come in, I will take care of you. You see, every man has a mother. And so, you know, he felt comfortable with that. And he comes in and she covers him, you know, like you cover a baby that's too exhausted, with a heavy blanket, a weighted blanket that's a carpet, a rug. And then on top of it, that mother, Yael, that woman that also knows how to nourish her children, she knows that when the children are tired, they are super exhausted, they are too hypered, then they need to drink some milk, because milk has calcium and magnesium, and that can put the child to sleep. So the milk most probably was a warm, nice glass of milk that she gives to him. So she used wisdom and she gave him milk. But what do you do when you have a very exhausted commander and you don't give him water, you give him milk? You actually gave him a tranquilizer and a soporific medicine, and now he's put to sleep, sound asleep. In Judges 4:20, Before he falls to sleep, he takes the milk gladly from her hands, and he trusts her implicitly and completely. And now he said to her, stand in the doorway of the tent, and it shall be, if anyone comes and inquires of you and says, is there anyone here, that you shall say no. In other words, you go ahead and lie for me, because you are protecting me. So he was so totally sure of that. Beloved, at this point, Yael said, sure, no problem. I will stand watch for you, and I will lie for you. You know, sometimes people say, well, you know, she lied. Well, yes, she did. And I'm going to tell you that at some points we can find great people used by Yahveh that lie to the enemy. You know, sometimes it's okay to lie to an enemy that's wicked and that's trying to get the life of people and that God is protecting. Let me give you an example. Do you know that during the Second World War, there were a lot of children and people that found, well, I can't say a lot, but I can say quite a few, that found shelter in convents, Catholic convents where the nuns were. And so they hid there, and the nuns hid those, especially children, but sometimes entire families. And then the Nazis would come and they would knock on the door of the convent and they would say, do you have any Jews here? I assure you that the nuns didn't say, sure, we have Jews, we are hiding Jews, come get them and slaughter them. But the nuns lied to the enemy, because in this case, it was mandatory to lie to the enemy. That enemy doesn't deserve for you to speak truth to it. You need to understand that that commandment in the 10 Commandments, where you think it says, thou shalt not lie, that is not what it says in that commandment. It says, thou shalt not, or you shall not bear any kind of false witness against your neighbor. In other words, you're not going to speak something about your neighbor that is untrue, that is a false witness, that could incriminate the neighbor and cause the neighbor to be killed or to be punished, without guilt, being innocent. But it doesn't say you shall not lie. It just says you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. This is a court terminology. Now, I don't mean about being a liar. Being a liar is a person that lies against the truth, is a person that's a pathological liar, and that's a liar to their own advantage. No, I'm talking about a person that actually refuses to cooperate with the enemy. When you do not cooperate with a wicked enemy and you just lead the enemy astray, that goes alongside what Yeshua admonished us to be. He said, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. She was definitely wise as a snake, I must say, Yael, because she put him to sleep and she put him at rest, ready for the next leg of journey.
I hope you're enjoying this program about the powerful women of the Bible. Actually, I had a problem with women in leadership, and I wrote a book to help you. I invite you to get my book, The Women Factor, and be set free.
I am immovable in you, unshakable in you, and I am full of grace. I am immovable in you, unshakable in you, and I am full of faith.
Now, I want to quote Ecclesiastes 7:19. I love Ecclesiastes because it's so wise. And in 7:19, it talks to us about wisdom. You know, sometimes we think that everything needs raw muscles, but I'm going to tell you something. Wisdom is stronger than muscles. Here we go. And many women can have this wisdom from Yahveh and win tremendous amount of wars, even though they may not have the same muscles. I know that today many women do have a lot of muscles, but there are some women that do not have a lot of muscles, but they have a lot of wisdom, and they can win wars. Here we go. Ecclesiastes 7:19. Wisdom strengthens a wise man, or in Hebrew is the word ish, which implies any person. Wisdom strengthens a wise person more than 10 rulers who are in the city. So you can have one woman with wisdom and she can be stronger than 10 rulers in a city. Hallelujah. Not the muscles, but the wisdom. Yael became stronger than Sisera, though he was the chief of staff of the most powerful army in this land thousands of years ago because of wisdom. Hallelujah. So let's see, what did she do? Now she needed to be courageous and she needed to be resourceful. So first she was wise and astute, and now she becomes also courageous, and she also becomes extremely resourceful because she needs to finish the job. It's not enough to put him to sleep, to put him under the carpet, put him under a rug. Then he will be all rested. He will wake up and he will continue fighting against Israel, and it would not have been good. And she knew it with the wisdom that Yah gave her. Judges 4:21-22 tells us what she did. But Yael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg and seized a hammer in her hand, and went secretly to him and drove the peg into his temple. Ouch. And it went through into the ground. Now that was determination, for he was sound asleep and exhausted. So he died. What did she do? She didn't have weapons. She didn't have a sword. I believe that at that time the Canaanites not only did not allow the Israelites to have swords, they may have not allowed even the Kenites or the Midianites to have swords. We don't know that, but we do know that Yael is a woman, and the woman is in the tent, and maybe if anybody has a sword, it would be the man at the time, not the woman. And so she didn't have a conventional weapon to kill him with when he was fast asleep. But that woman had a lot of wisdom, creativity, and she was resourceful. And she would not call it quits. So she takes a tent peg. You see, they were tent dwellers, so a tent peg they would have. And then she takes a hammer, and with great determination, it says that she took the peg and she nailed him through the temple all the way until the ground. That means that she did it swiftly, with great determination, and she did not pull back, and with great courage. And then the scriptures tells us, so he died. Now that's where the story really ends in victory, the moment that he dies. And behold, she said, as Barak pursued Sisera, because you understand what happens now, Barak and the army of Israel pursued all the other soldiers, defeated them. Now Barak turns around, sees that Sisera ran away, and he turns around, begins to run after Sisera, and he comes to the area where Sisera went to, which is the tent of Yael. Barak being the army commander under orders from Deborah the prophetess and the judge. And so Barak comes, and behold, Barak pursued Sisera. Yael came out to meet him and said to him, come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking. And he entered with her, and behold, Sisera was lying dead with the tent peg in his temple. Wow, tremendous. Even though she was at physical disadvantage, and yet with the wisdom, she managed to overcome the most feared army commander in the land of Canaan at the time. And just like Deborah prophesied, then the victory went to a woman. It went to Yael, this tremendous warrior. In Judges 4:23-24, it says, so Elohim subdued on that day Yavin, the king of Canaan, before the sons of Israel. The hand of the sons of Israel pressed heavier and heavier upon Yavin, the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Yavin, the king of Canaan. They destroyed them altogether. So we can see one small and wise warrior, the wife of somebody, the wife of Heber the Kenite, Yael, with wisdom from a big God, managed to overthrow the most feared army commander of the land of Canaan. And here we can see how two women, Deborah, who provokes Barak to go into the battle in spite of not having weapons, and to trust the God of Israel, an Israelite prophetess. Hallelujah, the wife of Lapidot, which means that she either had a husband by the name of Lapidot or that she was a woman of a burning flame. That's what Lapidot means, a burning torch in Hebrew. And she prophesied that the victory will go to a woman. In fact, the victory goes to two women. It goes to Yael, who kills the army commander, and Deborah, who provoked Barak and all the army of Israel to fight and to win against the most feared enemy. We can see here in a sense a Jew and a Gentile. Well, and Deborah was probably an Israelite from another tribe, not necessarily a Jew, but she may have been. But Deborah was an Israelite. Yael was a Gentile from the Kenite. But apparently this Yael was a God-fearing woman. And you can see here how Elohim uses both of them to be able to bring the victory to Israel after 20 years of oppression. In a past chapter, I've said that we need to be very careful from continuing the stigma against women in leadership, because I'm going to tell you the truth. It's not true. It's a complete lie that actually comes from a lot of church fathers that spoke all kinds of evil things about women, like they also spoke evil things about the Jewish people, and they were pretty anti-Semitic from the 4th century and on. They also spoke against the women, saying that they are good for nothing besides bearing children, and that the woman is actually a second-class creation. And that is a complete lie that needs to be debunked. And I want you to know that it's not true that when there is no man, Elohim chooses a woman. I would say we're going to change the narrative today with Deborah and Yael, and would say when there is a real challenging situation that demands tremendous amount of courage and mercy and faith, Elohim calls a woman. And in this case, he called a woman by the name of Deborah, an Israelite, and a woman by the name of Yael, a Gentile. And in these end times, there is a great army of women that is arising, as written in Psalm 68, verse 11. It says, Elohim God gives the word, and great is the army of women that proclaim the good news.
I love my wife's new album called Tribute to the Jew in You. I listen to it in the car all the time. You need to get it.
Do not delay your revival, Yahveh. Pour out your ruach like wine. Pour out your spirit like water, Adonai. Anoint your bride.
If you enjoyed today's program, support this broadcast by donating to kad-esh.org. To connect with us, write to info@kad-esh.org or mail to 52 Tuscan Way, Suite 202-412, St. Augustine, Florida, 32092, USA. Or call us at 1-972-301-7087. We'd love to hear from you. And join us again next week